our lists, I thought I'd just get on and talk about my favorite things that I experienced this year. And, well, also I'm going to read some poetry. I feel like, oddly enough, all these people have been referring to me, like, as a poet recently. And to be honest, it's just kind of, I feel kind of I feel good about it, but I also feel kind of uncomfortable about it. I'm like, it's just kind of interesting, you know. Like I feel like I failed so hard at that you know, the kind of new people that I've met since the pandemic, and the younger people especially, they all kind of refer to me as a poet, or the comedians and stuff. You know, like when I go out and do like I went and did that Giorgio Rosa, Neil Ryan Walsh. He has a crypto meetup slash open mic. So it's all these comedians and crypto people. And I thought I was doing stand up, but the thing that I did that really worked the best, weirdly enough, was the poetry. So for better or worse, I feel like I've spent my whole life sort of learning how to be a poet, in spite of the fact that no, you know, I never was really rationalized or validated or vindicated or uh, given the seal of approval or anything. So it's weird, you know. Most of the 2010s in New York, I felt like I was struggling to sort of like even tell myself that I was a poet, or like maybe I was just lying to myself. Maybe I was just playing the role. Was that you know, to be fair, I did a lot of different things, you know, performing, doing music, doing TV show. Poetry was kind of the fuel. It was the kind of fluid. It was the kind of like mechanics of all of that. But like once again, there was no validation of that in the outside world at all. I didn't have an MFA. I didn't have the credential. I didn't have the identification card, the pass, the poetic license. And so I was like really like, you know, doing it and living it, but insecure about it at the same time. You know, it would have been, not that it wasn't fun as hell, but maybe I would have done a better job if I. Not that anybody is secure in their vocation as a poet, but the best things I saw or experienced. I mean, most of the things that I did in 2022 were like going to open mics. This was the year of the open mic, and going to, you know, going to stand up comedy open mics, going to poetry open mics, playing music a little bit, not too much music. I'd go to Tuesdays at 9. I can't say I saw too much theater shit. Most of the performances I saw were like outside in parks, on the street, uh, just kind of randomly. Some of the best shit I saw was uh, fucking Dopamine Junkies. I like playing with Dopamine Junkies. They're cool. T, she's great. She's a great musician. Um, God, fucking Will Alexander at Poetry Project, no doubt about it. That was like one of the best readings I went to the whole year. Um, this is my year end best of from all levels, all hierarchies. Tom Achilles, stand up comedy. BB King, CC Ryder, D.D. Ramone, E.E. Cummings, F.F. Scott Fitzgerald, G.G. Allen. That guy's amazing. Tom Achilles, stand up comedy. We did the dime store thing with him a few times. Bob Fest. I gotta say, Bob Fest, when the woman took a piss. Bob Fest is an all day Bob Dylan festival they do on Bob's birthday in May. And I saw this woman just like erupt this piss fountain to get attention from the crowd. That was definitely one of the. Oh, yeah, that guy in the crane. I saw this naked guy on a hijack like a construction crane in front of Washington Square Arch. That was probably the most epic. That was like seeing Wagner or something. That was because the fucking arch is behind him and he's naked on this crane. It was that was like absolutely like the spectacle of the year to happen upon that and just be like, oh my god, da 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 da. It felt like hearing Carmina Burkina Faso or whatever the fuck that song is from all the movie trailers. So yeah, I mean, it's end of the year. I'm doing a best of, just talking about things I saw, experiences I had. The KGB, the Easy Paradise reading at KGB was probably one of my favorite events of the whole year. Yvonne Le Bien's unbelievable, amazing performance in the actual bar. That was downstairs. That was not in the Red Room. That was one of the best readings I gotta say, of the whole year. Yvonne Le Bien was incredible at that performance. I mean, the System Lords, not to toot my own horn, but the System Lord in Connecticut was like phenomenal. When I jumped on the power strip and knocked all the power out, so it literally like killed our set like halfway. But then I kicked on the Bluetooth PA. The Bluetooth PA saves your life. This is what I didn't realize last night: is the Bluetooth PA will save your total life. God, what else? What else was the best of? Because everybody, Shadows, John Cassavetes, the John Cassavetes movie, Shadows. I'd never seen it before. Probably one of my favorite movies. I feel like I've been living in a John Cassavetes movie without even realizing it. Whenever you're partying, like artistically, you're like living in a John Cassavetes milieu. When you're drinking and just like talking passionately among milieus of like artists and actors and filming it and hanging out in bars, and that's like a John Cassavetes. His movies are all about characters like using alcohol to kind of get to kind of these they're not all about that, but Shadows is an amazing film. I'd like to watch it again. A Thousand Clowns. I'd never seen it before. A Thousand Clowns, the Gene Shepard inspired great New York film, A Thousand Clowns, written by Herb Gardner, who wrote Who is Sammy Keller? Who is Harry Killerman? And whatever the fuck that movie is. It's got like the longest title according to the Guinness Book of World Records. Who is Harry Kellerman and why is he saying those horrible things about me or something like that? Herb Gardner. I'm Not Rappaport. Herb Gardner wrote I'm Not Rappaport. And a lot of Judd Hirsch. Judd Hirsch was in a few Herb Gardner things. Walter Matthau. He was like a beatnik. He was friends with Shel Silverstein, and he was part of that milieu. That kind of late 50s, early 60s. But he was like a cartoonist and kind of a comedic playwright. A lot of those people kind of had, like, Shel Silverstein, writing these kind of funny songs, children's stories. I think he may have written plays. But they were kind of like Greenwich Village, going to the coffee houses, hanging out. It's really the same thing. When I go out and I see Aaron Gammon, or I see the Moon Skippers, or I see the Music Inn, or I see Cafe Reggio, and my friends, the Regulars, Rob's Art. That feels like the same fucking lineage. It feels kind of funky in the same way. Or Mo Hillis. They all feel like kind of village beatnik. It's the same shit, really. Matthew Silver, Carlos, Helena, at the Music Inn. So those were some of the best performances, definitely. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, not that there was anything specifically, but that whole strain of kind of like clown, bohemian, really, performance artists in a lot of ways, pushing the limits of comedy, sort of alternative comedy, but, that whole kind of flavor I felt like a harmony with, and, it was kind of cool to see that. I mean, no offense to Matthew Silver. I'm not... what he does is, like, really affecting, and it is contagious and kind of spreads a lot of like consciousness, and he's good, you know, but it's not necessarily my favorite thing per se. He did a set at St. Mark's Comedy Club where he was like kind of more down to earth, and I was kind of impressed by that. He's a nice guy. He's, you know, he's very smart, you know, like he knows what he's doing. But he has such a, I mean, he just kind of reverberates, you know, his, because he's performing everywhere, and he, I don't know, he just kind of has such an effect, and he's cool. I mean, like, you know, I like what he does, you know what I mean? But when I'm talking about all of the things that I saw this year, or some kind of year end kind of best of, you know, it's like I can't really not talk about that. But probably my favorite stuff was stuff like all of the poets at Pete's Candy Store, the Crush poems, of course, um, classic. That definitely makes the best of the series. Seeing them play out over all of, you know, these different kind of venues, these different kind of performances, has been really exciting. Among other places, I mean, you know, any of the Billy Pedlow readings, you could say he just rips so hard. You can't not mention that. I mean, Carlos, I feel like, is one of the best out there. That whole crew, the whole Dead Pete's crew, I have to mention, because like it's definitely a unique kind of like anti-institution, uh, and core group of like people doing interesting things, and sexy people bringing it hard, and like doing their own thing, not you know, it is sort of an avant-garde in a way, because it's not just like, it's not copying any other, like, oh, let's just try to do what fucking Tao Lin did, or like uh it's just kind of a bunch of people that found each other and who are young and like actually still kind of like on their way up. That's what's kind of exciting about it, is it's not a bunch of old people. Well, not that that's bad or anything. What else? What else was some of the best shit I saw this year? Uh, fucking. Is this a boring subject? I find this stuff exciting to talk about. I love year-end recaps. Um, the Paul Mazursky films, Willie and Phil, and Next Stop Greenwich Village, were definitely among the best movies I saw this year. They're great kind of portraits of New York. You know, a lot of what I've been watching this year has been kind of like trying to put a lens on my immediate surrounding, trying to mythologize, or like, or just understand, you know, tell a kind of like cultural history or imaginary history, or just see, you know, this is one of the best ways to just kind of see what it may have been like, you know. A Thousand Clowns is a movie about a kind of a bohemian man child who is, you know, just kind of drifting through Manhattan, and so watching that movie kind of like taught me how to live. That's the point, you know, of watching all this shit. Shadows, you know, seeing these party scenes. Zlad's party was definitely one of the events of the year. Uh, if I may say, my own performance, WMDs, IUDs, WMDs. That was definitely probably the height of the year. I had a few my own best shows, but Zlad's party was just like the party in Shadows, the Cassavetes movie. So watching the Cassavetes movie, and then going out to the Chelsea Hotel or the Algonquin Hotel or KGB, hanging around a table with a bunch of poets, drinking wine, smoking, drawing, doing exquisite corpses, seeing movies where they do that. You know, it's like, I think portraying the bohemia, portraying the alternative lifestyle is important. That's like the propaganda. Here's the other way. You know, here's the way to live. Here's the way to really get to the good stuff. I mean, I gotta say, sex. Sex is number one on the list. I'm back to having, I've been having sex somewhat this year, and so it's nice. I definitely recommend it. That's high. That's number one on the list. That's the most important cultural activity I've participated in because it's artistic as fuck. It's kind of the deepest, most like you're like you're like two little like cats or something like vibrating next to each other in heat or something. It's just like there's something. It just brings things out of your your soul and your whole being, your whole organism, and nothing else really. I don't maybe performance and sex. doing open mics, doing comedy, doing stand up comedy. That's been my big like adventure this year. Going to Broadway Comedy Club. Honestly, my stand up comedy sets have been lit as fuck. I wish to God I had them on tape. I didn't tape any of them because I just was afraid. But I wish I had them on tape because not that they were like particularly but I don't know. I had a blast, and there was some cool shit that happened. Doing comedy shop, doing producers club, doing Young Ethel's, playing the clubs in New York. It's my favorite fucking thing. I mean, hosting the open mic at KGB, that's got to be number one, because that's like having like a show every week in Manhattan downtown. It couldn't get any better, unless it was every day. If I could do a show 4 days a week in downtown or anywhere in Manhattan, New York, I'd go to Brooklyn. If I could get paid to just do live shows in New York City, that would be like the ultimate lifestyle. That's my goal for 2023. I got to get on a 7-Up commercial that goes national. Does that even happen anymore? Is there such thing as like getting famous through fucking commercials, like the Dell Computer guy or the 7-Up guy, make 7-Up yours? I'm not sure that happens anymore. Nobody watches the fucking commercials. I don't know. The fucking what is it? The Home Depot theme goes viral. It's famous. TikTok. Apparently TikTok is the most popular website. It has overtaken Google as the number one website. That's kind of crazy. So, I mean, as an entertainer, as a performer, it does feel kind of nuts to not really be on TikTok that much. My TikTok presence has kind of diminished. So I should get back on that. I didn't really see any theater, like I said. I guess I would have liked to have seen more theater. The theater I saw, like I said, was that guy in the crane, that woman taking a piss. Bob Fest in and of itself was dope as fuck. All the people playing Bob Dylan songs in Washington Square Park, that was awesome. God, did I see any really good comedy? That guy sitting in the chair at Young Ethel's doing comedy, that was pretty hardcore. I like that. The one guy who said he hates his father, whatever, at Comedy Shop, that was pretty gnarly. This is just memorable stuff. This isn't necessarily like the best or the worst. God, what about some of the Shades of Green stuff? I mean, anything with Dee Dee Champagne. Dee Dee Champagne is incredible. She was Taylor Mead's date to the Bowery Poetry Club in 2004. What else? Let me see. Trying to think of Poetry Project, if there was really anything. The Will Alexander was the best thing. C.A. Conrad was great. Wo Chan is always great. The gala was amazing, Lorraine O'Grady. I filmed Lorraine O'Grady, who's like this artist that's been kind of honored the year recently. I think she was like honored at the Kitchen, and I saw her in the New York Times recently. We went to her studio at Westbeth. She has this unbelievable. It's really incredible. It's like she's got her own personal photo studio in Westbeth, which is in the West Village, overlooking the Hudson River. I mean, the view is like to fucking die. It's $1 million view. It's like, you know, overlooking the river. Beautiful light coming. It's this old wood panel. The door is like the greatest door I've ever fucking seen, because they built Bell Laboratories in like 1920s or whatever, when they actually knew how to build shit. So the building is actually like the guy next door. As we're leaving, I look over at the name panel. It's Bob Gruen, rock and roll photographer. If you look this guy up, he's taken a bunch of pictures of like John Lennon and fucking. He probably taken pictures of anybody. So that's the guy who's next to Lorraine O'Grady's studio, and it's huge. She's got fucking all these like soft boxes. She's got like literally 8 fucking soft boxes. Like, she's got her own Milk Studios. It's amazing. It was really like one of the most incredible places I've ever been. And she gave this speech about Patricia Spears Jones that was kind of like extemporaneous, and you could tell she was like telling us the speech, and she really went into herself and brought something out to impress us. And her clothes, I mean, she was so amazing, like amazingly dressed. Her mask like matched her beret, which matched her like jacket. It was like just so elegant, and it was magic. You know what I mean? To just see her rise to the occasion like that in this unbelievable location. That was like one of the most incredible things I did. Filming Lucy Sant in upstate, driving upstate to film Lucy Sant at their house in Kingston. That was incredible. What else? I feel like, I don't know. I can't go half-assed on this year-end thing, but I was going to read some stuff as well. What other readings were great? I mean, seeing Annabelle Lee at the fucking New York Studio School was pretty fucking cool. Talking about Duncan Hannah, that was like one of the dopest things I saw all year. Just going to that place, like, what an incredible fucking, like, environment, and just like that building even still like fucking exists and is there. Like, I did not go to as much art stuff as I would have liked. That was kind of last year. Last year I was going to museums and galleries all the time. This year was I hate to say it, it was way more about these open mics. That was kind of like my art gallery, was just seeing tons and tons of performances. And like, the open mics, you're seeing these bite size, everybody gets 5 minutes or whatever, so it's just like rapid fire. You see tons of shit. So it's like going to a gallery in a way. It's like going to a group show. I mean, seeing Ashley Escobar read at fucking KGB open mic, that poem about being a post-beat it girl definitely blew me away. And all the people at that open mic that we met. I filmed a few. Zlad, of course. What was the best Zlad performance? Maybe the puppet show. I like the cello. The cello is always a nice, that brings like a gravitas and a seriousness to the proceeding. So I gotta say the cello maybe was the best. I mean, Jason Trachtenberg, always great. Who else? Peter Glissman is a personal favorite. That dude is hilarious. That guy, Alberto, he was the one telling me about the whale jacking off to death in a in a bathtub in Indianapolis. Alberto, I forget his last name. He's incredible. Who else? This is my year end. For those of you just joining us, this is my best of 2022 list. Music, Holy Wisdom. I played with Holy Wisdom. That gig at Bowery Electric, that was one of my favorite things I did all year. I mean, my music career, I realize now, was very ill-advised. It was kind of a waste of time. If you watch the videos of me, I gotta say my performance on Valentine's Day at Pete's was lit as fuck. If you go back and watch that video, I've videoed all of them. You can go back and watch all of my kind of like me bombing. If you know, if you can bomb musically, that's what I'm doing. I'm definitely bombing. Probably one of the best, if not the best gig I played all year was at that art gallery on Avenue B. It was Emily Corals had a art show at this gallery on Avenue B in like 12th or 13th. So I literally could walk to the gig, and it was on Avenue B. It was the second System Lord gig, and it was still just me and Nevin. It was before Andrea joined System Lord, and we destroyed. I sang Donkey Shane, and I danced with this girl from the crowd, and I ran out in Avenue B screaming. That was probably the best show maybe I did, because I was really interacting with the audience and really like eye to eye with the audience in a way that I've kind of like backed off on a lot. It was easier to do that because it still felt like we were in this wild period before things had kind of like picked up speed and like returned to normal. So it was like more like we were animals or something. You know, it felt like there was less responsibilities, less fear, maybe. Less. It felt. Plus, it was like returning to performance. It was only the third show that I'd done. Like I said, I did Valentine's Day at Pete's where I got banned. I'm not technically supposed to go to Pete's because they did ban me from performing there because I broke the bass drum on Valentine's Day this year. I played to 3 people. My friend Greg Masters came, and then there were 2 lesbians. That's what made me decide to be a stand-up comedian, because I was playing music, and then afterwards, Greg comes up to me and he goes, "I liked your stand-up." And the lesbian couple was there. They were like, "You were hilarious." I was like, "Well, that was my musical career. That was my music. I made $35 from 3 people, but it cost me 120 because I broke the bass drum." So that was definitely one of the best gigs I played all year. That was, that was punk rock. Back when I had my mullet. My mullet was a huge mistake. I wish I would have cut that off like in 2020. That was insane. Having long hair, just, I'm glad I had it and I did it and I got to see what it was like, but it sucks. I don't really like having long hair, actually. I don't like it getting wet. Getting out of the shower with long hair sucks. It gets tangled, and it's just not for me. What else? Who else were some of the better things that I saw this year? What other music shit did I see that was pretty cool? I mean, Elizabeth Street Garden, those readings are always very special. That whole series, you know, is fun to be a part of. Like, Prince McNally is an incredible poet who I met through that. Like, if you haven't seen him, he's definitely, like, profound. And, Brendan Lorber, always great. He's super cool. Going to get pizza after Anselm Bergen's reading at, there's some fucking gallery in Houston. I sort of somehow connived my way into, I talked my way into getting pizza with them after the reading, and then I kind of just, like, didn't know what to say at all. And I also got tea with Anselm Bergen at one point. That was pretty cool. And then, so that was probably one of the better things of 2022. Now that people are watching my live stream, I'm kind of like nervous. It's a lot easier to just like kind of self-indulge. When people are watching, then you're like, fuck, I have to say something that they're going to want to hear about, or let me just go through some books. I mean, Joe Chiaravalo, Fits of Dawn. Because if people don't want to hear about a best of 2022 right now, then it's like, I feel like it's contingent on the audience watching the live stream, the 2 people. Fuck, where's my... Oh, yeah, okay. Here's my list that I wrote down of shit that I watched and read. And let me see what some of the best shit is. Gene Shepard, fucking listening to Gene Shepard radio. Oh, this is not going to work at all. This is just... All right, I'm going to read some fucking poetry because... Or I could just talk about my year more. What was some of the other better shit that happened on the open mic? I mean, seeing all these performers on the open mic just in and of itself, the sheer like humanity of the human parade and the numbers of just like, um, that doesn't mean stop watching. Okay, now everybody stop watching. Now I'm not like nervous anymore. I shot myself in the foot. God damn it, I shouldn't have said that. Now no one's gonna watch live. Fuck. Oh well. Maybe they'll come back on. A lot of times it does that where just like the number will go down. I didn't go to any of the events at that Beckett's Townhouse on Hudson, but that was kind of an interesting thing to just be privy to go there and see that space. That was one of the more interesting things, I'd say. Playing that gig in Connecticut was cool. Even just like driving up there, the fact that we were sort of on tour, that was kind of fun. We played this gig in New London, Connecticut in June. So we drove up there, you know, like we got to go on tour. Great. So I fucking talked to whoever it was watching and watching. Okay, fuck, now it's just me. Oh well, I killed my audience. Fuck. That was stupid of me. Well, no one was typing or anything, so I don't know. I'd like to... If people are going to watch, maybe they should ask questions and shit. Because, okay, what are some of the other best of 2022 things that happened? Is that everything? Maybe I've covered everything. I mean, just walking around fucking the West Village. That's my favorite thing in life. Going to Washington Square Park, walking down to McDougal, walking down Bleecker, walking up West 4th, Gay Street, Bank Street, Bedford, Commerce, all of it, Hudson. It's just the best shit ever. That party at Sarah Neer's place, that was pretty cool. Just that kind of fancy adult dinner party thing. It was like a Thanksgiving. That was nice of her. The food was really good. Okay, whoever... They stopped watching. I'm so disappointed. Now what the fuck am I going to do? God damn it. Well, there goes all the excitement. Now no one's watching. I lost all my viewers. God damn it. Are they going to watch it later? I wonder. Maybe. I wasn't trying to discourage people from watching. Fuck, now I'm so disappointed. Okay, well, let me go back to my fucking thing. Since no one's watching, let me go back to my list here. Here we go. Oh, this shit's all so good. Gene Shepard's America is a TV show Gene Shepard had that is on YouTube. Also recommended. My neighbor's blog, Folks is Home. Folks is Home. His blog is called Ardenville. It's very interesting and creative. Highly recommended. Ferlinghetti biography by Neely Cherkovsky was really good. Snake Pit comics by Ben Snake Pit. I really like that. E.E. Cummings, of course. Always. Cindy Adams' radio show. She was like kind of like a Trump friend. I'm not sure if she's a Republican, but she's like a gossip. Her radio show was something else, though. It was pretty interesting. Even though it's on like right-wing radio. The form of it as an audio document was pretty amazing. I can't believe you stopped watching. I'm so fucked now. Robin Blazer. That's one of the things I've been meaning to revisit recently. George Jones. Once again, I listened to tons of George Jones this year. Choices. That was maybe Song of the Year. Choices by George Jones. Let's see. The Day Trippers movie by Greg Matola. That was sort of like the story of my life, actually, in a weird way. Thank you for watching. I didn't mean to discourage anybody from watching. Please continue to watch. And if you have anything you want to talk about or hear about, let's go. Paul Metcalf. Paul Metcalf is a very interesting. He's like, I think, great grandson of Herman Melville. I got one of his. They have like a collected works out from Coffee House Press. He has a poem called U.S. Department of the Interior that I liked a lot. It kind of reminded me of that Gabrielle Gooding poem, Rhode Island Notebook, which he wrote entirely on the road, on the interstate, as he was driving from. He taught at some, I think, Brown, maybe, some college in Rhode Island and some college in, like, Illinois. So the whole poem, it's like this whole fucking book. And it's all like his mileage and getting gas, and it's Bush era. So he talks a lot about Bush and like the war and oil and shit. I really like that poem a lot. That's like one of my favorite, like one of my favorite poems, maybe. Rhode Island Notebook. It was definitely a huge influence on a lot of the shit that I'm doing. Martha King, Inside Outside. Martha King's book about how Basil King, the great painter who went to Black Mountain and knew all of those people and hung out at the Cedar Tavern and all of that shit, how he's been kind of like an outsider and like he hasn't really gotten the recognition he's deserved his whole life. And he's still alive. He's like 90 something. He lives in Park Slope. They lived in the same brownstone in Park Slope since like the 60s or something. And he's still alive, and he's just never really gotten the accolades or the acceptance. And so this whole book is just like about the life of an artist who's just like got the pain of like you know being unrecognized. Maybe that was not a good thing to read, but it's got that kind of Black Mountain prose style, like the Michael Rumaker books, or like there's just a readability to it. A lot of the Black Mountain writers, I find, there's I don't know if that's an Olson thing or what, but there is like a readability. Is that like an Olson doing like a Williams thing? Maybe it's like a prose likeness. I don't know. But let's see. Julien Poirier, always great. My Bersenbruges. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. But that, I mean, if you've never read My Bersenbruges, like, these books are, like, it's these long lines. So the books are kind of printed, like, wide. They're kind of horizontal. And so it's these long lines. I'd never really seen that before. It's really, really, really amazing. That's one of the best books I've read this year, definitely. The selected, My Bersenbruges selected is called I Love Artists, which is like the best title I think you could have. Podcasts. I got really into a bunch of podcasts. That was like a big part of my year. Howard Stern. Not that that's a podcast, but like I definitely spent like hundreds of hours this year listening to Howard Stern and learning to appreciate it. I mean, we're living in a reality podcast streaming friend group thing, and he was doing that way before anybody. So, I don't know. It's funny. It's like a way of to me, it's like better than stand up almost, because it is in the moment. It doesn't have that stilted like stand up rhythm. It's like, because it's spontaneous, but he's able to spin it into like something that feels really effective and finished. The Gilbert Gottfried podcast. Oh, Led Zeppelin 1 through 4. I listened to all the, like the first, I listened to Physical Graffiti. Those are on my best of the year. The Led Zeppelin albums, 1 through 4. They are all different. They all have their own personality in their own way. I'd have to re-listen to them, but Bruce Andrews, anything Bruce Andrews. Bruce Andrews is probably my number one. He's like the ultimate shit. If you're not into Bruce Andrews, should I read some Bruce Andrews real fast? You gotta get into fucking Bruce Andrews. Also, this Jim Dine book is lit as hell. This is one of the best fucking books I read all year. Jim Dine is a painter, but he lives in fucking Paris. But his poems are fucking amazing. They're like some of my favorite shit. He's like one of the best, I would say. Jim Dine. Jim Dine. He's like a famous painter. I don't know if I can find a Bruce Andrews book right now. Joe Chiaravalo, Fits of Dawn. Anne Waldman, Iovis. I've been reading Iovis a lot. And then Kenneth Koch has this incredible poem called On the Edge. I kind of underestimated Kenneth Koch. If you watch the attempt I had at an interview show with Time Dinosaur, it's like a poetry like interview that I did last year with my friend, the esteemed poet Mike Demian. And at one point, he kind of threw me a curveball because he brings up this poem, The Circus, by Kenneth Koch. And I've read it. I had read it at the time, but I was kind of slow to react because I didn't expect him to bring up Kenneth Koch. Because to my mind, Kenneth Koch is like an academic, or at least my thinking at the time. Of all of those New York school, I mean, Kenneth Koch was kind of at Columbia for like, 40 fucking 50 years or something. He had a stability and he was writing from that Columbia kind of vantage, which kept his work very clean and kind of impeccable stylistically, in a way that like he wasn't really sloppy or messy or offensive necessarily. I don't know. I was selling Kenneth Koch short, to be honest, because I read a lot of his shit when I first moved to New York. I have the book Thank You, and I remember reading The fucking Circus and Fresh Air and a lot of whatever the fucking poems are in that book. Like I did read the shit. Season on Earth, I've got his fucking selected, but I didn't look at it that often. But I was reading this poem On the Edge the other day, and that motherfucker, like, slaps. Get on the edge, because that motherfucker is on the edge. It's still very, like, on the forefront. Doing the fucking poetry reading in France, that was definitely one of the most lit-ass things I did all year. My friend... Well, I was supposed to go to Paris to speak at this conference in the spring, but I just couldn't go because it just would have cost too much, and I had work I had to do here, and I didn't want to leave New York in fucking April. And so, I just had too much shit here, and so I didn't end up speaking, but I got invited to read my poetry at this fucking... So it's new work on the New York School. It's this, like, consortium of European academics that study the New York School and are sort of like, they are codifying it. They're writing, like we're saying, the history of it. So they did this conference in the spring, like I said, and there was supposed to be a companion reading in March, but the woman who was throwing it got COVID, and so they delayed it to September, but in any case, we did it on Zoom. I had a double header that day. I think I had a System Lord that night and the reading during the day. Because the time, in Europe, it's like 8 p.m. when it's like 2 p.m. here. So it was like 2 in the afternoon, and it was live on Zoom. And I read my Chelsea Girls poem where I talk about my big juicy pussy. And the academics in France loved it. They're studying my fucking literature and my poetry in France. I'm officially... I don't think that makes me officially a part of any kind of New York School anything at all. But, if you want to talk about it like in some kind of, to be honest, they deny there even is a New York school. So they are just in denial about it to begin with. But I would say that the New York, like one of the things that they asked during the reading, they asked me, they're like, "Do you think what would you say the New York school, if it exists today, what is it? Do you see it? Where is it? Are there people, what would you say that it is?" And I said this poet Marcella Duran had read this piece that she had written about the relationship between painters and poets in New York right now, and how Alma Birch and Anselm Berrigan are reading in this gallery, and blah 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 blah. They're doing this Joe Brainerd show. And I was like, well, that's kind of your answer right there. Like, there still is a New York